Jordan, and this is Yes, But Why podcast. Yeah.
How many groups you have in Austin at the moment is just phenomenal. And like little old Tokyo here, we've got two groups that, you know, practice with the English, and then you've got quite a few Japanese only speaking groups, but nowhere near as many as Austin, really.
Well, are most of the people that are performing improv in Tokyo like affiliated with a specific group, or are there an occasional like satellite group, a group that like rehearses on their own and does other things?
Well, they used to be, actually. Most of them are either connected to those two. So you've got Tokyo Comedy Store that has regular workshops. So they invite, you know, strangers and what have you to come in. People stay, and then we build them up to get on the main stage show, or they do showcases in the workshops. Then you have the Pirates, which is a closed group, no workshops, auditions once a year, and when you're in type thing. And I say a few years ago, 5 years ago, I started my own group because I wanted more stage time. There wasn't enough happening, and I wanted to do different things. So there was a group of us that got together and we did our own thing at an open mic night. And that lasted for, I think that was 2.5 years. And then my schedule just got absolutely banana nuts. And
what was it
I
called?
just thought, we didn't have a name.
I'm sorry.
We didn't have a name. We just performed at the New Material Night. We called ourselves the New Material Group.
You performed for 2.5 years without a name.
I know, but that's Tokyo. I imagine in America you'd think about the name before you even got the group together.
Oh my God, everybody's got like a pocket full of like 47 ideas ready.
But we did it for the love of improv. We just wanted to play.
I know troupes that have broken up over the name discussion.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
So like you don't need a name. Like, is it because people are so like, I'm going to go to all the improv and soak it up, that it doesn't even matter if you're promoting your shows or not? Or is it just like the community's the community, we don't have to try hard? What's the motivate? Like, why would you not need a name or marketing?
I guess because we were connected. We only performed at this New Material Night show that a guy called Dave Gatteridge run, who's been in Tokyo for yonkies, improviser, stand-up comedian, etc. So we just wanted to perform. So we did it really for us. And if the audience, I mean, sometimes the audience were 5, sometimes the audience were 30, 35, we had a full house. We didn't really care. We just thought, yay, we get to perform and we get to rehearse in between. We sort of, it was every Tuesday night. So we'd rehearse on a Tuesday, perform the next week, rehearse, perform, that sort of thing. So it's 52 weeks of the year. Of course we cared about the audience, but really, I guess it was quite self-indulgent. Let's just get some more hours in.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Like, all of performance is self-indulgent. Like,
yeah, totally.
Like, it's not like I actually coached this troupe and had to have like a real conversation with them about the fact that they were having more fun than the audience. I was like, you need to find a way to bring the fun you're having to them. Because right now I can see you guys are having a great time, but they are like, what's happening? Who are they? What's this? And they just were not connecting. So it's funny how it's funny how the experience of improv and doing it has this like amazing release, and it's filled with joy, and the like experience of studying it is so joyous and like freeing. But then as an audience member, you approach it in such a different way. Like, to compare, whenever people compare it to stand-up, I'm like, no, apples and oranges. These are not similar things.
Yeah, totally. I remember going to the Del Close Marathon. It would have been in 2015 maybe, I think it was. 2014.
I really thought you were going to say a lot longer ago than that.
No. Well, I'm still a fresh improviser. I've only been doing it for 6 years. So
wow.
I went to DCM, and talking about what your group were displaying, I sat there and I saw a lot of different improv. It's my first sort of lots and lots of American improv. My background's theatre, you see, so I didn't understand this Second City UCB style at the time. And there's these guys, and they were just laughing at everything each other was saying. And I was like, well, I'm not enjoying this because I'm not included. I don't understand why. And I kept saying to my neighbour, what was the joke? I missed it. Sorry. And they were like, well, they've just discovered a game within a game. And I'm like, okay, what's a game? So I was really, really fresh. But yeah, it felt excluding, really. So that was a good lesson. So I'm pleased you said that.
You know, it's funny. I think that what I'm learning, especially talking to people in other countries, is that, you know, improv sort of mutates wherever it is. Honestly, even different cities. Like, I didn't realize that in the U.S. there weren't just schools giving you opportunities for stage time, because that's all that I've ever experienced. I took classes at a school. They were like, great, we like you now. Would you like a show? I will take a show. Yes, thank you. I would like to do this other kind of show. And they're like, great, here it is. And that's pretty much what happened to me. And so when I talk to other people and they're like, so nobody knew what improv was in the back city of, you know, Kentucky, and I had to tell everyone what it was and teach everyone, and then we started a show in a bar. And I was like, wait, really? I thought it was already invented. They're like, no, it was. We read the books and we watched the shows and we went to festivals, and then we came home and we're like, okay, guys, this is what we think it is. And I was just fascinated by the idea of that because, like I said, I have improv privilege. It's been handed to me. Everything since the moment I heard about improv. Now, I didn't like start at UCB in like the 90s or something like that. I'm not like that well connected. But when I started improv, which was about 9 years ago now, it was just immersion by one group, right? So that's just kind of how it worked out for me. And it's so fascinating to hear other things. So let's back up, because I do want to know more about where you started. You said you started in theater. What did you do in theater? Did you get a theater degree in college or something?
No, I'm not that studious.
I thought you were going to say stupid. Oh my God, that's so funny. I have a drama degree and I would have laughed harder than anyone, but I really thought you were going to say stupid. So funny.
Oh, a drama degree. Oh, no. I'm not that. I'm very impatient, unfortunately. So I started off with pantomime. Obviously, I'm British. Pantomime is massive in England, round about Christmas time. So that was my first public role. Apart from all the school stuff, I was always picked for school stuff. I was rather a large, tall, young girl. So I was always picked for the feisty female roles type thing, because I fitted and I was bigger than the boys, actually. So the giant role or things like that. So oh my gosh, I went to church when I was younger, and I was picked. I was picked for Joseph. Loved it. Favourite role ever. I was like, a man with a beard. This is amazing. Oh yes,
certainly explains the story a little bit more. You're like, oh, of course, Joseph's fine with it. It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Joseph's like, sweet. Sorry, keep going. Mary, what's this? Oh, yay! Sorry, I'm continuing with this too much. Keep going. You did these plays at church, and you were the tall girl, so you were picked to be in all the Shakespeare plays.
Oh, damn.
What?
Shakespeare plays? No, you jest. No, I didn't do my first Shakespeare until, what was it? Oh, it was Midsummer Night's Dream, and I was the philosopher. Again, the standalone role, because nobody was big enough to be my husband or my partner or my stage partner, so I was always the solo person. That's the story.
Sounds like a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. Very lonely though. No one to practice lines with.
Think of all those waifish girls, those short waifish girls who are still playing somebody's wife in a television show or a movie. You know?
Exactly.
You're like, oh, exactly. That poor girl.
And you look back now and you think, oh, I've had so much opportunity to do so many different roles. I mean, I'll never be the waifish, cute honey girl type thing, because I'm just a little bit too clumsy for that. But yeah, I've had a lot more opportunity than the sweet little delicate things.
So were you focused on acting when you were younger? Was that something that was a big interest for you, or did it just happen to sort of be the extracurricular that you fell into? I was more focused on it. I really enjoyed it, and I'd do the after school clubs, the lunchtime clubs. Went away for summer schools to London for I can't remember the name of the schools actually. I just really enjoyed doing acting stuff. Didn't know much about it, and I just enjoyed doing the art form because it was fun. So that's, it's not something did I fall in? No, I didn't really fall into it. I kind of chose to do it. The opportunity presented itself once, and then I just kept doing it. Was that you jingle jangling?
I was just thinking it was you. It must have been me, but nothing's flashed up. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. No, because I was like, I didn't bring my phone in for just that purpose. It's been jingling today, so I was like, where is that noise coming from? Sorry.
It's your husband listening in. He's checking your sound experience.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So you're involved in acting as a kid. Are you doing local? You said you're doing all the camps and the clubs. Did you do any like community theater? Were you in, everybody's Christmas Carol?
Yeah, I did the the pantomimes, the local community, the local thespian club, what have you. And then I started doing auditions, so that like proper auditions where it's not just local people that you're good friends with, or you know somebody who knows them. It was auditions with complete strangers, and that was in Cambridge, actually, the Cambridge Theatre Company. So that's where I first sort of got my taste of something bigger than, the local area.
Were you a kid? Like a child?
I was 13, 14, yeah. I think. And I was a prostitute.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. A homeless prostitute. That was my role. But it was a massive production. That was my first big production. And we performed at a brand new theatre that opened in Cambridge called the Junction, which is now a complete dive. All sorts of shenanigans happen there after hours now. So I can't believe just how beautiful it was when we started.
Come on. Shenanigans after hours, hotels and theaters, anything that's got like background or like little walkways that not everyone's privy to. Oh yeah, trouble.
Yeah, trouble. And of course, as an adult, I went back there to participate in those, club nights, and because it was a theatre that could also be a club, that could also be a function house. A very interesting venue. It's a complete dive now. But, many nights were spent there going, I can't believe I was acting over there. I've seen backstage. Yeah. And then obviously as the night wore on, I completely forgot about the past. Yeah. So there was that. And we created, that was a wonderful experience because we created our own script. We created our own songs. We created our own drumming, all the music. It was just working together in this massive collaboration of about 30 kids aged between 10 and 16, run by a choreographer, a director, and a musical director.
That's the program that you went to at Cambridge Theatre Company?
That was my first sort of big audition. For this production. The production was about young homeless. Homeless in the, what was it, it had been 1980, because I was born in 76.
I was born in 78, if it makes you feel any better.
Oh, nice. Oh, good. Yeah.
I like that you whispered it, though.
1980, there was a lot of homeless around in England, and it was the hot topic, I suppose. So it was about social awareness, bringing social awarenesses to the audiences of Cambridge. And and we had to get permission to be excused from school. We only ran for 2 weeks, to be fair. But yeah, that was my first big production. And I thought, like this. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. That's great.
I
like that. Now, you mentioned that it was a collaboration. Was the play itself a written thing, or was it like an improvised situation among all the actors to create the production?
Well, now my memory doesn't serve me exactly, because I was just like, this is an amazing experience. I get to hang out with lots of cool people. We get to dance a lot, sing a lot, and, pretend we're someone else. So
I couldn't tell you what I was doing when I was 13 either. It's all right.
I think how they did it was they came in with a basic idea, and we did like workshops to help build on something. So I didn't understand what improv was, because I wasn't exposed to improv except from Mrs. Charnley in school, when she made me dress up as a clown and go and order my lunch dressed as a clown in character. And I thought, this is uncomfortable and weird. And I later found out, that's improv. You're creating something on the spot. I'd only ever done scripted stuff.
Was it a punishment that she was giving you? Was it like, you're in trouble, put on the clown suit?
No, it was.
It was an acting exercise?
Absolutely. She was from America. And yeah, she was from America, and it was my first like proper American that wasn't on the airbase. My father was friends with airbase people for cheap goods and stuff. And she was my first like real American that I'd kind of met. And she was our drama teacher, and she made us do all these unusual things, which I later found out was improv.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, those Americans introduced me to improv.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's also a certain level of like avant-garde sort of character work that there is. When I first started, I was in, when I first started doing comedy, I did theater like you did. I did theater and plays and went to different regional theaters around. But then I decided I wanted to do comedy because of a boy. Don't worry about it. And, of course. And the crowd that I ended up getting connected with was totally all about characters. It was like people would go up and just do bits in character, all sorts of different things. One of the guys who is one of my best friends, and I still talk to him even though we're many moons away from each other. But the first time I ever saw him perform, he stood on stage. It was a stand-up show. It was not a character show. However, he got away with everything because he was great. And I watched this show, I watched like 2 stand-ups, and then this kid, he was 19 at the time, comes up on stage, starts smoking a cigarette, and is just emoting whatever for 10 minutes. Didn't say a word. Messed around with the microphone, did a couple of things, used the cigarette to express some stuff, never said a word, nothing at all. And then at the end, they called his name, and I was like, that was his bit? Oh my God. And it was like, my mind was blown. All the stuff was like that. So when you mentioned like getting dressed up and going and doing something, and I was like, man, like I was like the odd man out, just being a regular person in regular clothes, walking around with my friends. Like, yeah. In my 20s, it was me and a girl who dressed up like an elf and a guy who dressed up like a bunny and a man who was younger than he should have been for how bald he was. And it was just like crazy, It's funny how different things are.
The bloke that you saw, see, improv, I've always thought of improv as, you have to be wacky, you have to be funny, you have to be silly. But that guy that's theatrical stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love the possibility of creating proper serious theatre using improv, like LA Theatre, Dan O'Connor and Edie Patterson.
Yeah.
I love what they do. I'm their biggest fan, probably. And Stephen and Joe, I worked with them in Dubai last year, and I saw Edie play on her first show that night, and I was like, fuck me, this is possible in improv. And then I was like, right, okay, she's now my idol, I'm just going to watch what she's doing. And everything was about, okay, how did she do this? That's brilliant. Okay, I can see what she did there. That's amazing. Oh God, I love her. Yeah, I'm like Edie's biggest fan. Edie, Stephen and Dan and Joe, they were just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a true fan.
It is pretty wild to see the kind of like the depth of emotion and the like seriousness that can be achieved in using improv. Because when you're first taught it, you're taught it under the guise of comedy. You're like, all right, guys, we're gonna do some wacky make-em-ups, and all right, everybody, just yell out a crazy word. What's a word you're thinking right now? Broccoli, love it. Okay, like it's just like bouncy, and you're trying to have a good time, and like, I mean, hell, that's how you sell it. Like, if you're trying to get people to sign up for classes, you're not going to be like, how do you feel about really serious things? How do you feel about crying? Do you like it? You're going to do a lot of it. Like, nope, you're not going to get people in the door, right? But but I do love that, when you finally dig in, when you realize what's possible, it's, it also, I personally think it's helped me with my acting. Like in the interest of continuing along the line of his silent performance had a lot to it. There are a lot of roles that you get in theater where you're standing on stage for a while, but you're not really the person that anyone cares to look at. But you still have to do all the things. Like, you can't just drop out and just watch them. You still have to be the person in the room with whatever's happening, right? And I know that sounds like a silly thing to say. Like, clearly, I'm sure there's a bunch of actors listening to this that are like, obviously, you're in the moment. But, like, it's hard when you're not the person who's talking or reacting. And it's like, if you're not active in a moment, you're kind of in a side moment. It's weird and different. And don't get me wrong, those are my favorites. Like, once I like a movie and then I go back to watch it multiple times, there are moments where I don't even watch what's happening in the center. I just watch the side action. I want to see what the extras are doing. I want to see what's going on over here. I want to see why we're in this corner. Like, just stuff like that. And so
I do the
improv
same.
has helped.
Exactly the same. The weird person where you don't actually know what's happening in the story. I do this on the first showing because I've got the attention span of a donut. And you'll just watch what's happening in the background. Oh, what are they doing? Why did the director make that decision? Oh, I wonder what he had for tea. I wonder what the discussion was in the dressing room before he came on, type thing. That sort of stuff.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
you've heard of Patsy Rodenburg, the second circle stuff about being in the moment.
I have heard about the second circle, but why don't you tell me more about it, because I don't know very much.
Okay. Well, I'm still learning about it, but the first circle, you've got 3 circles. Second circle is really the one that you want to be in, which is being 100% present in everything you do. Third circle is like, look at me, and it's very self-indulgent. You're not really listening to the other players. You're being super loud, for example. You can still be loud in second circle, but I'm sure you've watched a ton of improv. You can probably see the great big goofy character. You've got 2 great big goofy characters. You can see which one is actually listening to the other properly, for example. So this is a very 101 explanation, by the way. So you've got third circle, which is like ga. Second circle, which is like, I'm here, I'm in the moment. Well, actually, you're not even saying that because you're so in the moment. You wouldn't even be thinking that. And then the first circle is just being a little bit closed, very self-aware. Well, if I do that, then, I've missed my opportunity. Oh, there we go. You know, where the monkey comes in and you're second guessing yourself. You've got the improviser's foot going on stage because you're not too sure if your offer's good enough. That sort of thing, and thinking too deeply, and maybe planning ahead as well. Patsy's just going to listen to this and go, A, that's not my name, and B, that's not exactly how it goes. But
if you are listening to this, Miss Rosenberg, and you'd like to refute that by being on the podcast, please call me. I'm available.
Absolutely.
That's how you do that. It's funny that you mentioned that you're giving me a 101 explanation, because that's mostly what I teach. I teach improv first level, and I love it. I love my noobs.
What do you love about it? What's your thing with the 101s?
I just really like, I've always been a gregarious person, and people when I was growing up would tell me I'd be great at sales. Turns out, not great at sales. However, very great at teaching people, and that, I think, is what people thought was my skill at sales, because I can convince you that you not only want to know what I'm telling you, but that you know it. Look, you know it now. And there's something about it. There's something about, I love the first day. I love the icebreaker. I love checking out who is nervous and who's not, and I love thinking these two are gonna help each other and this one's gonna be tough, and the adventure of teaching a level 1 is so much greater than the other ones. Once they're bonded once they all continue, because oftentimes the group will continue together on the levels. So by the second level, they're like friends already. They get it. They have inside jokes. There's a little bit more, and then they keep going, and it's like tighter and tighter and tighter until you get to the group, like the group that I was coaching, where they were graduates and they were trying to do a troupe, and I was like, this is all well and good, and I can tell that you guys are excited and you're having fun, but you're not translating that to me. Whereas a new person, like, can't even help but share their joy because they don't know they're holding a cup that has it in it. They're like, like, and it's beautiful and it's great. And it's also like, I've taught it so much. I've taught it for so many years that like there are certain patterns, and I just watch for the patterns, and everything is going to be fine. Like all the time, people will come to me always with tons of different kinds of concerns. And the thing that I know that I just listen to them and I let them tell me whatever they want to tell me. And then I tell them what I know to be the truth, which is like, it's going to be fine. Like nothing you can do is going to ruin this other than leaving. I mean, I guess it doesn't really ruin it if you leave, but if you like don't participate, I mean, but you're there. But the thing is, just do it. Just talk to your friends. It's like, you don't have to be funny. No one cares. I don't want to laugh. Look at me. I'm very serious. You just need to speak. Speak to your friends. You know these people. Talk to so-and-so about his comic book collection. You know you have questions. Talk to so-and-so about his new baby. He's dying to tell you about it. Like all sorts of little things where it's like, it's fine. It's easy to get in and out of it. I also like convincing people. I love when people come in and they're like, I don't know. My friend told me to take this class. I don't know if it's for me. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Let me have you for 2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks, sunshine.
Well, I teach 8-week courses, and it's like 2 hours per class for 8 weeks, right? And so once I hook them, which is, 2 weeks. Because if you don't show up the second week, it's like, all right, well, probably I'm not going to see them again. But if you're still there, then I gotcha. And then it's like bringing it around to the other adventures. And also being like, see, it's not just silly make-em-ups.
They're hooked for life, Amy. You're just, whoa, I've got you. And now you're part of the Improv clan where you'll never leave.
Oh, I can't leave now. It's like, you know, I didn't know there was this kind of community in theater when I did theater. There was a lot of, because you know how one of the things, there's a bunch of theaters, and I'm sure in Tokyo you guys deal with this question a lot, which is like, are you guys in competition with each other? And you're like, yeah, I mean, there's a couple of theaters. We'd like an audience. They'd like an audience. So sort of, but you know, one hopes that we're not only catering to a specific group or a specific area or a different kind of style, and we get our audiences, and every theater gets its own individual audiences. But that doesn't mean that we aren't in competition with each other. But we choose to ignore that part, that yucky part, the part that says, I'm trying to be the best and you're trying to be the best. If you'd like to be the best, like we're in Austin, Texas, which if you've never been here before, it's just like a magical wonderland where everything is nice. And every time people complain about it, I'm like, guys, have you ever been anywhere else? Relax. Like,
I'd love to go actually one day.
Oh, it's wonderful. I mean, it is literally people. I'm almost tempted to cut this out of the podcast because I don't want people to know how great it is. It's like when my my friends and I, when we meet people that have like were born and raised here, we call them unicorns because it's like, oh my God, hey, do you know what the other side of the world is like? Have you ever been to a city? And they're like, this is a city, and you're like, oh my God, you're so cute. But it's a very nice place, which means improv is a perfect place for it, because improv is a nice thing. Improv is sweetness, it's kindness. It's like, let's trust each other, let's be trustworthy, let's be fun, let's be good to each other. And in the wake of so much happening in, I don't know about you guys, but in the US, there is just like one theater after another falling to like sexual misconduct, and it is like, come on, what's going on? And Austin has really like set down new standards for like conduct and taking care of each other, and it's like,
yeah,
it's a magical place. I'm telling you, it's totally magical. It's wild.
I've heard, actually, and the people that we get visiting from Austin, I was really like, oh, they're lovely. They're just so kind and caring, and they know their onions when it comes to improv. So I learned stuff from them, and slightly different. I'm not saying that I don't dislike the people we get from other American cities. I love all American cities, just for the record, of course. But the attitudes were different, and there was a lot more, dare I say it, a little bit more ego came with it. And of course, Tokyo is so young. No, that's not the right word. I'm still thinking fresh, Amy. Tokyo is, you mentioned competition. So, the two groups, we're not in competition. The demographic for our audiences are completely different. The type of improv we do is completely different. You've got Pirates of Tokyo Bay that does the short form, bilingual. So we have to bring in some of a little bit more pantomime slapstick stuff to grab the Japanese audience, particularly when they're listening to the English scenes. You've got to grab their attention. And then you've got the Tokyo Comedy Store, which do more of the Keith John Stone stuff. And then we do an improvised musical in the second half. So the audiences are totally different. So we're not in competition at all. And the other thing you mentioned, actually, was that I got slightly jealous in a way when you said about the 8-week program that you have. Now, we don't have that in Tokyo. It's just this continuous learning experience. You come to a workshop and you never leave unless you leave Tokyo. So we don't have it's a cult.
Well, of course it is. It's a cult here too, but
we don't have this wonderful thing of like joining with a group of people and being with them for 8 weeks and having that out of your comfort zone experience, being really intense for those 8 weeks. It's a beginning and an end. With us, there's no end. So some people don't come on week 4, week 24, etc. So the people that are performing in Tokyo now haven't had that intense experience together. We just practice with each other every week. The bond is completely different. So we have to work at our bonds after we've joined the groups, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys are pretty lucky. And I think maybe that shows when we have visitors come over, that they have that kind of that background. And obviously the guys that we've had from Austin were really lovely. Really lovely.
Yeah, I'm telling you, nice people. And like I was talking about earlier, the crowd that does international traveling for improv, pretty much the sweetest. Whenever I see the people posting stuff on their Facebook about, hey, we just went to this place, I'm like, oh, so good. Because they are lovely, wonderful people, and people will go, oh, wow, Austin people are great. I'm like, good. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, good answer.
Yeah. The people that I don't like, I just convince them they need to move to LA, and then, that takes care of that.
Yeah. The other day, they said, have you ever considered going to LA to live for a year and just sort of do improv and theatre? Because as I said earlier, I'm just a massive fan of, Dan and Edie and the work they do there.
Oh, sure.
And I was like, no, I've never, ever considered that. I think LA would just ruin me because I'm just a sweet little English girl. I'm sure my friends would say, oh, that's a lie.
Well, if you stayed focused at the theater, you know what I mean? Like if you were just there to do a workshop, then sure. You know, like I think about that sometimes too, but it's really all in the way you take in a place. You know, I've lived in lots of rough places and you just sort of got to find a corner and then hang out in that corner for a little while. I don't mean the corner. Oh man, wrong metaphor. But like, no, you know, you... But, you know what I mean? Like you find your circles, you go to them. If you went to the theater, especially for like 1 year, because like from what I understand from my friends who have moved to LA in an industry way, like I want to try to make it kind of way, like a year is nothing. Like you got to be 2-3 years before you even get your foot anywhere near a door, never mind in it. Like there's just so much meeting people and schmoozing and like side work to be done before any of that can happen. So that way, like if you just went and did improv, you know, the improv theater world is a whole separate world than the like Hollywood rough and tumble situation. So number one, I say take any adventure you can get. However, let us backtrack for 1 second because I want to say your friends are all like, hey, go to Los Angeles. Do you counter with, hey, I live in Tokyo? That's pretty impressive to begin with. How did you get to Tokyo?
Yeah, very good point. I forget I live here sometimes.
Do you just only hang out with other British people so you like don't remember?
No, I don't. And I've only in the past couple of years started finding British people and feeling more comfortable. Because, I love people from other cultures, other countries, etc. But it wasn't until I started meeting a few British people, it made me realise, these are my people. They understand what I'm saying when I talk about 1970s TV programmes or, do you remember Supergram? And like, you'll do lines from an old TV show and they'll get you. Whereas the Americans and the others, they don't understand. Because they've got their own thing, you know, and I don't understand it. I just pretend I do. You know, the rule of improv, just go with it and pretend you do.
It's such a helpful part of life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course, I know what that is. Yeah. And it's not. I think I mentioned, I was on stage and I mentioned Hoover once. And I said, well, I haven't done the hoovering. And my partner was just like, you could see her little eyes just go tick tock, no idea. But then she was just like, oh, hang on, vacuum cleaner. And then the scene progressed type thing. And I think that's one thing that sticks in my mind where other people have issues with the British language as well. So I'm very mindful. That's the beauty of being in Tokyo and practicing here so long, is that it's made me very, very mindful of the different cultures and level of understanding of what I'm saying, and to take care of other people more so that they look good, really, instead of just being right, well, I'm British, deal with it, let's go in the lift type thing.
Yeah, you get it. You know what's going on.
Yeah, the lift was really easy. I tell you what, though, recently, 2 years now. 2 years? Yeah, 2 years. I've been going to India. I went there for work originally, and I've been playing and teaching and coaching a group out in Bangalore. And that's
An improv troupe?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Improv is not massive in India. The audiences still think it's stand-up. Sure. They're very confused when they watch it because it's not stand-up.
Same with the audiences in Austin, despite the fact that it is a humongous improv town. The audience is like, I don't understand. Why aren't you telling me a story? And you're like, oh, did no one check this guy? Sorry, keep going.
And when I first started going there, I went there for work, and I was like, well, I can't do without improv for 4 weeks. So I found a local team and they were like, yay, come and play. And I was like, oh, this is great. And I did practice, and it turned into, I arrived and they were like, teach us. Because you were talking earlier about people in smaller areas in America just reading a book and watching and learning from that. And that's exactly what the Bangalore team have done. And they're so really focused. And their love for improv just increased my love for improv. It was infectious. So it started this 2-year relationship of me going over there every time for work. And I would teach them, teach certain aspects, and then coach them. I've coached them online. And then there's always a show involved as well. And they're just, it's taught me a lot about dealing with a completely different culture. We don't have many Indians in Tokyo. We've got a few over here, but only one of them plays improv. And he's quite westernized. So if you imagine very localized Indian stuff about family, the types of food that people eat on a certain type of day at a certain time of day, I knew none of this, but it was great for me to dip into the, of course I know this type stuff. So that's been wonderful. And I feel so free when I play with them. They really do bring me so much joy when I play with them.
That's so great.
Yeah.
What an awesome opportunity. I love that you're like, 4 weeks. I can't be without improv. You're so amazing. That's so wild.
A great, super opportunity. And the relationship just blossomed. And they're doing their first... They're doing their first International Improv Festival in November now, which is amazing. So in these 2 years, the improv scene has grown from just this tiny little group where I think there was about 8 to 10 people in the room when I first went there. And now they're doing these 8-week courses. You've got other improv groups popping up. You've got improv/theatre groups popping up. They've got more groups in Bangalore than we have in Tokyo. It's so wonderful to see what they've done with the scene, and also educating the audiences. So it's not that they kept trying to do the let's advertise this format and that format, and I'm like, well, the audiences understand storytelling. Storytelling is massive in India. So talk about unscripted storytelling or improvised storytelling, and then the audiences understand, so they come in and they see the shows and they're like, oh, this is fun, this is not stand-up. So a gradual process, but it's been wonderful to see it grow, and I just, they're a fantastic bunch.
How great of you to like go to this other place and like share your knowledge.
I'm honored, absolutely honored.
Yeah. So how many years? You said you've been doing improv for 6 years. Is that the length of time you've lived in Tokyo, or are you there longer?
I've been in Japan for 8 years. Gosh. Oh. Which Facebook reminded me the other day, actually. Apparently I had a Japaniversary. I've just come back from India, so I had a Japaniversary while I was in India. That was exciting.
What got you there? The job?
What, Tokyo?
Like, how did you get to Japan? You don't, other than my other guest, who I love that you know, I don't know how a person gets to be like, okay, you know what? Let's move to Japan. Sweet, let's do it. Wild. Oh, so, like, what got you there? What made you say, yeah, okay, I'll move there?
So, I was very much a Cambridge girl because I'm from Cambridge, and for me, Cambridge is a big city, and London's like woohoo. And I worked for a global company, and I looked after Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. So that was my first exposure to outside of the UK. And I lived in Cairo on and off for a bit, which was my first experience of living outside of the UK. And I was like, oh, this is good. I want this to be my job all the time. I love I don't know, it's very movie-like, living in a different place for little periods of time, and then coming back to your slippers and your warm house and your central heating and your cups of tea and custard creams. But then I lost my job. It was the 2008, the Lehman's Dudall brothers, and I just lost my job. And a friend of mine who used to teach English in Poland many, many years ago, she's now like some VP of talent management or something at a global company in Cambridge. She kept listening to my calls, and she was like, you'd be really, really good at teaching English. You've just got this way with people who aren't non-native speakers. And I was like, really? What's all that about then? So when I lost my job, I was going to go to Dubai and do recruitment, which is a load of bollocks. I'm glad that didn't happen. But then I retrained as a teacher and I was going to go to Saudi because I love the Middle East, extreme country, but, do extreme things. And then I met someone and they said, why are you going to Saudi Arabia? You want to be going to Italy or somewhere. That's a little bit more about your personality, Christiane. He was from Scotland. And oh, phew, I've been practicing
Excellent accent work.
And I was like, yeah, I'll go to Italy. And so off I went, and I met people in Italy, and they were like, let's go to Japan. And there was this contract that came up, and it was a 3-month contract. And I was like, So risk adverse me was like, and excitement me was like, 3 months. I'll either love it. And if I love it, that's fantastic. I've had 3 months of loving something. If I don't like it, it's only 3 months. I'll come home to my cup of tea and custard creams. That's fine. Or go back to Italy and go back to that school. So I came here and I taught English in universities in Nagoya, which is a city further west. Did that for 2 years, and then thought, okay, I need to leave Japan, go to a different country. There's a big world out there. And then I went home for an operation, free NHS. Thank you very much, England, for having free health treatment. Sorry, America. And I thought, well, I can't. I've got to at least do Tokyo for a few months because it's expensive to travel to Tokyo from Nagoya. Did Tokyo and started improv, and I've never left. So I came to Tokyo for a 4-month contract, and I've never left because of improv. Improv kept me here.
Did you end up finding another job like the one that you had before, the computer job, or are you full-time teaching improv? I carried on teaching English, and I moved into business English, and I got really fed up with universities, university students. Universities are different here. It's kind of like a mandatory, English is a mandatory requirement of certain degrees. And once you're in a university, students kind of start relaxing because the hard work is over. The hardest bit is getting into the university. So they're very lazy, and I had about 3% of the class that actually really bothered and cared. And I thought, well, this isn't why I started teaching. I need more
motivated people. And I missed business. I missed talking to people about, just spreadsheets, project management. And, you know, I was a manager for 10 years before I retrained as a teacher. I missed it. So I just went, okay, I'm going solo. I'm not getting on the plane to go home. I'm going to just stay in the country and hopefully I can get a visa when this one runs out. And organically, it's moved from the teaching business English to having my own company, doing applied improv workshops, to individuals in Tokyo, but also India. I do corporate stuff out in India now. To acting, a lot of I've got several fingers and several pies now. I do the things that make me happy instead of the thing that is most sensible that will bring me money every month.
Same.
Yeah. And there's a worry about, oh gosh, you know, I can always pay my rent, but, you know, there's that worry of I'm not saving much. But, you know, I'm happy. Who cares?
Yeah.
Type. So I've organically morphed into teaching improv, doing films, doing TV, doing video games. I do motion capture. I do voice work, character voice work. And female empowerment programs. I also do those. Yeah.
Nice.
Love it.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy.
Wow, that's wonderful. These are all the things that you do through your own company? Like essentially book yourself on gigs?
Mixture. Yeah. So I'm a freelance actress. So I have a couple of agents that I book through. And then I have my company where I do the other private stuff like coaching for presentations and speeches and applied improv. And then I have a couple of corporate schools that do the sort of teaching. Well, they allow me to do the sort of teaching that I want to do, which means I can bring improv into it.
Yeah. I've taught improv to all sorts of business people, and I don't understand what words they're using, but I just smile and play along.
Because you know exactly what they mean in theory. Yeah.
You know, I wanted to speak to that idea. You said a couple times, like, they don't know my references and I don't know theirs. I was going to say one of my favorite things that I've seen in improv, and I didn't initially start doing this until I saw it, I want to say in New York, but the idea of instead of trying to figure out what that other person says, if they say a phrase or something that you don't know, you immediately define it in a way that it very likely is not what they meant, but you say it out loud so that the two of you are now on a new page together. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you say hoovering, and instead of the person having to figure out that you mean using the vacuum cleaner, you know, they say something like, you know, I don't think it's fair of you to talk about Ronald Hoover that way. I mean, I know he eats a lot of hot dogs, but you can't just call eating hot dogs hoovering every single time. Like, and then it like renames what it is. And I just thought that was such a smart and great thing.
A joyful gift. Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, in a way that like, because I've taught, again, when I teach my level ones, sometimes I teach people that are all the same age, all the same generation, all the same, like, references. Great. Easy. Don't have to have the conversation. But I've had groups where it's like half of the group is 21. The other half of the group is 78. Like, you know what I mean? And then you have to be like, okay, wing this. When somebody brings up something that you don't understand, refigure what that is in the new world that you guys live in.
Beautiful.
And, you know, it was wild. I mean, that kind of stuff, I think, is where the true freedom comes from. You really can do anything. You can be funny or serious. You can talk about pop culture, or you can reinvent the wheel. Like, it doesn't matter, because you're making it up in that moment. You're living in it right now. And then when somebody edits that scene, you know, it blows away like sand in the wind. Yeah.
Exactly. How joyful as well for like the 21-year-olds to get to play with like the 70-year-olds, and they're both learning stuff about each other and having this newfound respect for the age groups as well.
Yeah.
That's just so lovely.
It's funny, you know, when you do early level improv, you also have a lot of conversations about like impropriety and like pigeonholing certain characters, and like every woman doesn't have to be a hooker, that kind of stuff. But the number one thing that I dealt with was preconceived notions about what it is to be an older person. The people would always set her up. One of my students, they would always set her up as if she was an older lady and she couldn't do stuff. But when she was the person who made the decision or walked on and said what she was always like an animal or an invented fantastical creature. Like, she never had, you know, she was never like, I am your grandmother. But if she walked on stage and they glanced over to her, they'd say, hi, Grandma. Like, they couldn't be like, hello, Princess Willoughby. So glad you're here with us. Like, they don't just invent. They were stuck in that thing. And I kept being like, try to widen it, right? And I would never say it directly in front of her. You know what I mean? So in the rehearsals that she happened to not be there, I'd be like, guys, stop saying this to her. Stop pigeonholing her. It's like if you were, like, I had a guy friend. This is one of those, like, how sad it is to be attractive. It's like what I imagine all of, oh God, now I forget his name. Ryan, not Seacrest.
Ryan Reynolds. No.
It's so sad that I can't even. It's the guy that everyone's in love with. Oh, God damn it. Everyone in the audience is like, Ryan fucking whatever the right name is. Whatever it is, he's like super king hot guy. He's in La La Land, you know, whatever. He's going to be in the new.
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool.
Oh.
Ryan, attractive blonde guy, is in The Notebook. And, oh, God damn it, what is his last name? It kills me that I don't know what his last name is. It's okay. I'm not going to look it up because I like infuriating the audience. Regardless, I bet you his personal friends... Yeah, right. Ryan Gosling. I got it. Thanks. Sorry, everyone.
Yes.
I bet you his friends are like, Ryan's a dink. He's not attractive. Whatever. But to the outside world, you know, he's perceived that way. I had a guy friend who had the same thing. He wanted to do, like, weird characters and wild stuff, but he was, like, hot. And every time he got put in something, they were like, great, you're the romantic lead. You guys are going to fall in love. And he was like, wait, what? And they're like, can I be the guy with the mask on? And they're like, oh, no, we're not covering up that pretty face. So It's like, you know, you get put in whatever those things are. Kind of like it makes me think of bringing me back to what we were talking about up top, which was that you got put in all these wild women roles, yet somehow it could be a blessing and a curse because you were tall and lanky for a young girl, yet somehow that made you somebody that the adults looked at and got involved and perhaps enabled you to play roles that were less of a ingenue pigeonhole. Yeah. I don't know. I think about that myself. I'm a larger lady, like I'm plus size or whatever you guys call fat people in the UK and Japan. But so the nice thing about my life is that I feel like I've always been like, I don't know why everybody's worried about what they look like. And it's just because I'm lucky and people like me. So I've never had any, like, people didn't, like, harass me about it. And I didn't, like, not get acting gigs because of it. And, like, I just kept working and doing things. And, like, you know, people didn't harass me on the street. I never got catcalled. None of that stuff. My life has been charming and wonderful. I'm sorry, everyone in the audience whose lives are not charming and wonderful. But because of that, I never think of being overweight as a problem. Like, I'm like, what? It's fine. People are like, but... And people don't say it to me like, oh, it's a problem. But, you know, other people will be like, well, I need to change. And I was like, but really, why? But, like, okay, I see if your doctor says, like, it's change or you're in grave danger. I get it, sure. But if not, like, who cares? People are going to be your friends. And you're still going to get jobs. And everything's fine. But, again, it's me speaking from a point of my own privilege. People just, they are nice to me. I got gigs. I did things. I was in all the projects I wanted to be in. There wasn't a time when I was like, is this an opportunity that I would like? And people didn't say, yeah, do you want it? So because of that, it's like, you know, I never think of the negative because I didn't experience it. So, yeah, I don't know. It's like, it's all in how you look at the way you are. And all in the way you empower it and move forward. Like, I was like, nobody discriminates against me. What do you mean?
Do you think improv helped you to be that person?
I don't know. I didn't start improv. Like I mentioned, I was born in 1978, which means I'm 40, which means when I started 9 years ago, I was already in my 30s. I was pretty well cooked. Like, I'm not... You know what I mean? Like, I'm different in that I'm going through the journey of my life, and, like, 40-year-old me is different than 30-year-old me, is different than 20-year-old me, sure. Oh. But, like, realistically, like, my self-esteem was, I don't know, set early on. I was always overconfident. I think that's probably why I'm overweight. Because I wouldn't have even let somebody tell me not to be. I'd be like, what are you talking about? Give me that burger. I'm like, I'm the best. I'm going to eat that whole chocolate cake. Like, I don't know. It's the overcompensation. I'm from Boston. I don't know if you have any preconceived notions about what Boston, Massachusetts is, but it's a bit of an angry place. And I think my reaction to the fervor of anger was to instead be, like, enthusiastic.
Right. The opposite. That's the witch's place, isn't it?
Yeah, Massachusetts is where the witches were burned. That's right. That's one of the many troubling things that my ancestors did to people. I mean, no, you're right. No, you're not wrong.
That's why people are angry.
That's
why. And is that where the Me Too movement started as well?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know where the first gal who said it. I never know where those things begin.
You see the videos coming out now about liking men to witches and stuff. And yeah, so that's why Boston's in my head. Well, Massachusetts is in my head.
Well, the men are real sad now, so they're all like,
excuse me?
We're not. The men are real sad. That's why they're like, you're treating us like witches. It's like, guys, not even kind of close. They, like, made them hold stones and toss them into the ocean, and we're like, I don't know why she's not rising to the top. Yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah.
They were like, burn her alive. Not the same. Just not.
No.
It's really not. They mostly just thought any emotion from a woman was hysteria and insanity. So that's what happened. It's different. Different things.
Hugely different. Yeah.
Yeah, the men's movement is a dramatic movement for sure. They'll never be able to pin drama on us anymore.
No.
But that being said, to bring it back, which is kind of what we're talking about, you told me, you mentioned the female empowerment programs. I was just thinking the other day that was like such a big deal thing that like we needed in the world, clearly based on what we're talking about. But tell me quickly, just to wrap it up, because I don't want to take too much more of your time today, but tell me about those programs. Like, what do you do? Do you do speeches? Do you work one-on-one? How does that work?
All of the above, really. It's the reason why it's so bloody cool is because it's for young Japanese high school girls. And And young Japanese high school girls are quite different to the American, the British, anywhere else. They're much more like, if the audience don't know much about the culture, it's a very supportive culture. If you do something and you stand out, it's considered in poor taste. So everybody aims to be at the same level at all times. That's a very basic. There's other nuances, obviously, but just for the purpose of this. So these girls are like, oh, I'm nothing special. I don't know what I want to do. I just want to get married and have a husband and have a baby, and that's all I really want. So the empowerment programs are run by Japanese intermediary, but the programs are designed by a professor in UC Davis. They've got a team of psychologists working with them, female psychologists and male psychologists, actually. And the program is 5 days long, all day. Basically, I facilitate them. So I take the course requirements and then add my spin to it, hence bringing in improv to help. We have like groups of 5 or 6 high school girls, and then we also bring in undergraduates or graduates from Harvard, Yale, UC Davis, UCLA, Cambridge, Oxford. Just started to bring some in from Australia, and they facilitate within those groups. So each session involves a lesson. So, for example, female leadership. We look at leadership, and you see, Shinzo Abe, Nelson Mandela, but then there's also Beyonce out there, and Mother Teresa, and Koike, who is the first female governor of Tokyo. And it's about getting them to understand that, females can be good leaders. Okay, what sort of leader are you? And they're like, well, I don't really do any leading. Okay, have you got a younger sister? Have you organised anything in your club? So it's about getting them to understand that these tiny little things are actually something that they can grow and improve. So we do leadership, we do social issues, environmental issues, identity, which is massive, one of my favourites. And then at the end of the session, they would do individual presentations in their groups or group presentations. I get them to do skits. I get them to do TV commercials, train advertisements. We have a lot of train advertisements in Japan. Posters, advertisement posters, that sort of thing. So by the end of these 5 days, the first few programs I did, I'd cry by day 5 because I was just like, these girls are amazing. Hold it in. But now they do the crying. That's kind of when I know it's been a success, when you've got, the girls are just so emotionally connected to these group leaders. They've just discovered something about themselves that they didn't realize was powerful and worth shouting about. So day 1, they're like, hi, I'm Maiko. And day 5, it's like, hi, I'm Maiko and I'm amazing. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And I will give up. I will block my diary for 6 weeks in the summer, 2 weeks at the winter, 3 weeks in the spring. I won't do any acting work. I'll try not to do evening voice jobs and stuff like that. And I will just focus on that because I just love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I've taught week-long intensives before, and there's something wonderful about spending that time with other people, about like opening your heart to them and showing them that what they do and say matters. It's really great.
I love intensives. I think I'm a completer finisher, to be honest. That's why I'm a little bit jealous of the 8-week program you do. You have a start, you have an end, and then, you choose what to do. I can manage my schedule much more easy if I have a start and an end as well.
It's only one level is 8 weeks, and every program has like 5 or 6 levels. So it's like a year-long situation.
Good. Yeah, I like that, because you've got 8 weeks, several little compartments of 8 weeks, and then you have that one big compartment of 1 year. So you've still got an end in sight, and at the end of that year, if your personal goal is to perform on the stage, at the end of that year, that's what you want to do. So that's what you're constantly working towards, underneath learning everything else in the classes. It's about it's goal setting, isn't it? I love a good goal setting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super important.
Really great to talk to you.
Oh,
really good
you too.
Stuff. Yeah.
Amen. So nice to have another female improviser to chit chat to. Yeah.
Same, absolutely. Yeah, I talked to a lot of gentlemen on this podcast, I realized. And so, yeah, it is really nice to talk to another woman out there using the great mechanism of improv to, spread a little happiness and empowerment and let people know that they can have a fun life no matter what circumstances they're in.
Yeah, it's important.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast and taking time out of your day to share with me and my audience all about the work that you do. And, thanks for doing improv and sharing it with the world and going to, India and everywhere, doing coaching and all sorts of stuff. It's so great that you're out there spreading the word of improv.
Cool. Yeah. You too, Ames. Virtual high five.
Yeah, that was nice.
Thanks for listening to Yes But Why Podcast. Check out all our episodes on yesbutwhypodcast.com or check out all the content on our network, HC Universal, at hcuniversalnetwork.com.